Welcome to the Wholesaling Inc podcast. I'm your host, Chris Arnold. And as always, we're excited that you guys show up and join us. If you're tuning in to a podcast, it means you are serious about what you're trying to accomplish in real estate. I just always believe we go so much further and faster when we open ourselves up to learn from other people. Why make all those mistakes yourself? So here's what I got in store for you. This whole radio thing is just super interesting, right? And it's one thing for me to talk about it, but I find that you need proof pudding. If you're like me, like somebody will tell me an idea and I'll go, that's great, but why don't you try it for a few months and then let me know how it goes, and then I'll jump on the bandwagon. So I think it's always so important that as we're doing these podcasts, occasionally we bring in students that talk about their success. Because it's one thing, let's just be serious. It's one thing for me to tell you about it. It's my baby. It's another when we pass that baton to someone else and to hear their story and the success that they're seeing with it. And why I'm so passionate about radio this year is I just know that the market for 2020, when I started this right at the beginning, was hungry for something new. Again, we've all done RBN, text blast, cold calling, but we've been hungry to have something that creates an inbound lead for us, something that truly is set and forget it, something that actually brands us as a company. And I get super excited because when I'm giving this to other students and you see the success, again, if you've ever done coaching or anything along those lines, it just creates the greatest fulfillment because it's better and much more fun to see someone else succeed. So today I had Natasha Turner on. I love her energy. I love her sincerity. And you're going to hear about her radio station. Number one, you're not going to believe what she's paying for a month. And number two, you're not going to believe the amount of deals she's done. I shook my head on it as well. So Natasha, welcome to the show. Thank you so much.
Hi, thank you. It's good to be here.
Awesome. So for those that don't know Natasha like I do, give us a little bit of background, how long you've been in the game, what type of deals you're doing, all that stuff.
Okay. I only got into real estate investing about 1 year ago, last month. And I've been on radio for 5 months, which is something insane to me. I never thought there was any way in the world that I would be on radio. That's just nuts.
And what made you feel that way? Because that's a good point. Because I think a lot of people might go, there's no way I could do radio, particularly being the fact that I'm newer to the business. What made you think that?
I like to hide. I like to be a fly on the wall and learn without talking and without drawing attention to myself.
So coming in and kind of putting the spotlight on yourself for your personality, right, made you a little bit hesitant. Now that you've done that, would you change that at all?
No, absolutely not. I would definitely do it all over again. I still want to add more stations, but the next one we're negotiating on is a big one who thinks they're a big shot. So it's going to take us longer to be more persistent.
I love it. So what type of deals you've been doing and what type of marketing were you doing initially before you stumbled across radio to start making that work for you?
Okay. I was doing Driving for Dollars and Brent Daniels TTP program.
Brent Daniels. Love TTP.
That was probably a good step up in courage for me to dare to go on the radio. So that was mostly all what I was doing before I joined the radio. And when I joined radio, around the same time, I started doing some creative financing education. And so it's been really interesting with these radio leads to be able to use not just one exit strategy, but also to be able to offer creative financing strategies for these sellers. So we've been doing lots of different kinds of deals, some owner finance, some subject to, some straight wholesale.
Yeah. And Natasha, I applaud you for that because I always remind people, don't get niched into one exit strategy. Again, learn an exit strategy, maybe like wholesaling, then layer in something like subject to, owner financing, maybe real estate brokerage. But if you want to get a greater return on your marketing, here's the tip for you. Begin to generate multiple strategies so that when you get a lead, just because it doesn't fit wholesaling and you think you got to throw that in the trash, no, there's a deal there. You just need to reach in your tool belt, pull out something else and apply it. And I'm telling you, sellers appreciate someone that's a solutions provider that can help in multiple circumstances rather than just come in and do one thing. So on the marketing channels that you were doing pre-radio, everyone likes to know, I always ask this question, what was working best for you up to that point?
I would say cold calling was working best for me, but at the same time, it requires sitting on a dialer. I've had a VA before. It was a foreign VA. I didn't enjoy that experience. I didn't feel like I was able to offer my customers what I could when I was talking to them personally. But at the same time, I didn't like sitting on a dialer for hours on end. I have a lot of energy, and I like to be up and about and feeling like I'm
You like to be on the move.
things.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you expressed that, because if you're listening, and again, does cold calling work? It does. 15 years ago, Natasha, and to anyone listening, that's how I built my business.
Yeah.
I was calling expireds and FSBOs, and I was just smiling and dialing. But Natasha, I'm like you. After a while, it's like, I don't necessarily know that I like sitting here dialing number after number, dealing with the rejection again. And if cold calling works for your personality, continue with it. But there are some of us out there that go, you know what, I can do it. It works, but can I maybe find an alternative way to accomplish getting deals rather than just having to bang out the phone all the time? So I love it. So you're kind of shaking and baking, right? You've got a couple of things that were working for you, obviously on the marketing side, and then radio pops up on your radar. Why give it a chance? Why choose it? What drew you to it?
My thoughts were, so while I was doing the TTP program, I was thinking, I need something to boost what I'm already doing. When I talked to Brent, he'd say, you just need to sit there longer. You need to be doing more to get more deals. And I'm like, literally, I don't think I can do that. So I need something to boost it that won't make me go insane. And so I thought, well, even if I can only afford to pay for one small radio station and just get started, as long as it pays for itself, that will supplement. And it's been interesting to see kind of the turn where I've been so busy keeping up with all the radio leads that now I don't have to sit still so long on the dialer, but it gives me the freedom of time to be able to take time to train someone locally to help me with calls. So if each of us only does a couple hours a day, then it equals up, to enough. And then you add the radio in, and it's becoming this really well-rounded picture that's keeping me running.
I love everything that you're saying, Natasha. And so if you're listening, I hope that you pick that up. If you have one marketing channel like cold calling, and that's where all your deals are coming from, you really do feel strapped to the phone and like, well, I got to double down to do more deals. What I hear you saying, Natasha, which is great, is, okay, I don't like cold calling as much. It's not my favorite thing to do. But radio alleviate the pressure off of that to know that I'm not just doing that solely, so I can go in there and work it at a level that I'm comfortable with. Yeah. Also, I bought myself more time because of radio to hire callers so that eventually this whole thing's outsourced. And now I can focus, as you said, you got a lot of radio leads coming in as well. So now you've kind of broaden what you're doing from your overall marketing strategy, and that's great. And I always tell people, you should have somewhere, Natasha, between 2 to 4 channels. Any less than 2, you're in trouble because all your eggs in one basket. If you got more than 4, you're probably half-assing it, just being very blatant about it. So I love it. So setting up radio, can you come in, you're a little bit nervous about the spotlight, right? What is this thing? People always want to know, in comparison to setting up things like cold calling or text blasting or RVMing, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being super difficult, 1 being easy, where would you rank the setup on getting your radio up and going?
I would say a 2. And
I'm laughing because everyone says either 2 or 3.
Oh, really?
It's like the 10th time. I've only had one person, Natasha, come on and say a 7. But everyone else is 2 or 3. I had one guy say 1, and I was like, you can't say 1. Nobody's going to.
No, I literally would say a 2 because you guys were so good at giving us exactly what we needed to say, what we needed to look at, and then verifying the information and feedback we were getting. So then really all I had to do was just be steady and persistent. And even through, the rejection that might initially come, Brent Daniels had prepped me for that. So I was used to rejection. So I was willing to just take with confidence what you said, that you just stay persistent and it will work. So that gave me like the chill factor where I could just sit back and be like, okay, this is going to work. It's worked for so many other people. I can just relax into that knowledge and just be persistent. And then COVID happened and good things come out of bad things. Even though they told me, no way, that's never going to happen. They called me back and like, hey, we can give you exactly what you were asking for and more.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so get ready for the answer to this question because it made me obviously even a little bit jealous for where my location is versus yours. So you're on a station, right? You're doing the typical, as you guys know, we advertise 100 times on a station, right? So 5 times per day, Monday through Friday, 25 times a week. That's a lot of frequency. Can you imagine that? Your message being heard 5 times a day, Monday through Friday for an entire month. What's your budget? I'm already laughing. What's your budget monthly, Natasha, on radio?
Right now, it's $700 a month.
700. So you have a marketing budget advertising 60-second spots on $700 a month. That's pretty inexpensive.
That's what you told me to ask for, so that's what I did.
Natasha's like, I didn't even know any better. Chris just told us to go ask for this price. So, that's one of the things, if you're listening, why you're hearing such success on radio is because we come in and buy our radio at 25 to 50 cents on the dollar on average. And so we're getting it so much less expensive than everyone else. And that's why we're going to see a great return. So Natasha, people are probably listening going, okay, $700 a month. You've been advertising for 5 months now. You made kind of the off comment earlier, like I'm handling all the calls that are coming in. Some people are like, really? Off $700? How many deals have you closed in the first 5 months off of radio?
I've closed 7 and I have 4 more in escrow right now or with an agreement signed already.
So 7 closed on the books, another 4 in escrow pending off a $700 budget a month on radio. How has this changed your business?
For me, it's given my family and me a lot of peace of mind because where I was stressing out a lot before, and it was like emotional ups and downs of I don't know if I can do this. Now we've got the steadiness that allows me to just let my mind relax a little bit, so I can start working on the business.
So you have, this is the way I like to view radio. It's an automated machine that you set up that you don't worry about managing. It's set it and forget it. And all it does is just make your phone ring, and all you gotta do is pay your $700 bill a month.
Yeah.
Is that pretty accurate on how radio works once it's up?
Yeah, it's very accurate.
It's very accurate. And then you said the other thing, stability. People ask me, like, what is my favorite thing about radio? There's a ton of stuff that we could hit on. I just like the fact that it's dependable. I've been in the game 15 years, and I don't like anything that puts me on a roller coaster ride. Whether that's revenue, whether that's emotionally, I look for simplicity. I look for stability because I want to work and enjoy what I do and enjoy my life. And a roller coaster ride in a business will steal from personal life. It'll steal from your family. And so I feel like the expression I see for you is just kind of, letting your breath out and going, okay. I got room to breathe a little bit as well. And again, if you're listening and want to tune in and see Natasha and us having a good time, you can always go and subscribe at Chris Arnold Real Estate. And of course, we drop additional content over there as well. So let's talk about one of these deals. I asked you, I was like, okay, what's one of the more interesting of the 7 that you did? And you go, I got one. This is a pretty interesting story, how it started off and how it turned out. So tell us about a particular deal you've closed off of radio.
Yeah, my favorite one still so far is the first one that I did. And it just taught me a lot. So the owner, he called me out of nowhere and it was the first one. So I was like super excited, like, oh my word, this is so wild. Someone listened to my radio. I can't believe it. Like I'm famous. This is so freaky. And he started asking me, so tell me about what you guys do. And so I started the whole spiel, of how we can save you closing costs and we'll cover this and we'll cover that. And you don't have to worry about anything. And he automatically, like all his defenses went up and he's like, oh, I know who you are. You're just one of those shysters that take advantage of people. Click.
Wow. So you're like, oh, goodness.
Oh, I guess I messed that one up. And I was like, okay, let it roll off. So then like 2 or 3 months later, I was walking a property with a friend, planning for some development on it. And the phone rings and it's that guy. And I'm like,
he called you back.
I know this phone number. This can't be right. Like he was being so nice to me and he was telling me his whole life story and he was really friendly. And I'm like, I must have this wrong. So I said, hey, I think we talked a few months ago. And he's like, yeah. yeah, I probably wasn't very nice to you. I was having a really hard time. And he told me the whole story, you know,
Yeah.
but
So he responded. So this is what's interesting about this. You had an automated follow-up system in place because the automation was the fact that that guy hung up, but he just kept hearing you every day on the radio.
yes.
So when he called you back, he just called back off the radio spot.
Yep. Yep.
I love that. I love that. I want to paint a picture if you're listening. Let's talk direct mail real quick. And here's the difference I really think when it comes to frequency for radio via automation. If you have a direct mail list, the question I ask people is how many times are you going to send that same piece of direct mail to that seller before you come in and restack your list, right?
Yep.
You'll get some answers, but you're never going to hear someone go, well, I mail them 50 times. But radio does that without you actually having to do any work, right, Natasha? Because you're just hitting that same seller with that same message again and again. It would be like if you were able to send a direct mail card to that seller for years and years to come, but you can't do that in direct mail. You got to keep bettering the list, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. And I think that's why in a situation like yours, your message was automatically creating follow-up and then the guy responded. So you pick up the deal and tell us about kind of what kind of deal it is, what type of profit. Again, everybody likes to know, okay, let's talk some numbers here. What'd you see happen?
So it was a house in one of the best neighborhoods in Lexington, which for us is our biggest market nearby. So that kind of freaked me out a little bit. I was like, oh my word, this is over $500,000 house. Like, what if I jack this up? These people are so rich and fancy. So I went over there and I was, you know, just talking to him like a person and listening to him about his story and everything that was going wrong in his life. And I was able to connect with him over the silliest things. Like I noticed he had a big collection of Legos in the corner. And so we got talking about that, and his basement smelled like donuts because he worked at Krispy Kreme. So I just became human to
Great
him.
smell, by the way.
Yes, I know. It's crazy. I let him become human to me. I became human to him. And I just let him tell me what he needed. And in the process of that, his defenses went down and he was open to owner finance. I told him, you know, look, you are right. You know, cash offers aren't as good as putting it on the MLS, but he didn't have time for that. You know, and so I was just honest with him. You know, of course that would be offensive, but there are other ways I can help you. And he's like, okay, tell me about that. And so that's when we talked about possibly owner financing. And he's like, all right, what does that look like? And I said, well, you tell me, what do you need? And he's like, okay. And he started coming up with some ideas, and then we worked back and forth, and he signed a contract. Yeah.
How did that feel?
At 0% interest with zero down. No, I take that back. It wasn't zero down. We ended up going back and doing a little, he came down on his price if I did a little bit of a deposit. So that was cool.
Okay. So again, some might not be familiar with seller financing. So the question always like, well, okay, what'd you make on the deal? So what were you able to pull in on that deal profit-wise?
$16,000.
Nice. Nice. That's a good size deal off radio, particularly the fact that you're just spending $700 a month. So with just that deal, again, I'm not going to be that quick of math in my head, but that's fundamentally paying off radio for that station for a really long time.
Yes.
So everything you do on top of that's just pure profit into your pocket. So I always tell people this, people ask about radio. Should I use radio for owner financing or buying on terms, for fix and flip, wholesale? Hey, I'm a rental person. I'm trying to build a rental portfolio. It doesn't matter your exit strategy. We all have one thing in common, and that is we need a distressed, motivated seller to call us and present us an opportunity. So you can tack on whatever exit strategy you want. And Natasha, you're a great example of that. Name some of the exit strategies that you've used on your radio leads so far. So seller financing, what else have you done?
I've done lots of straight wholesale assignments. I've done some subject twos. I've even done a couple land contracts.
Okay.
I don't know what they call them in Texas, but that's what they call it here in Kentucky.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're able to come in and take one source and do multiple exit strategies on it.
Yes.
Here's the thing that if you guys don't know about our ads, we're all fundamentally pretty much saying the same thing. You know, you don't have to come in and talk about subject to or these things. It's just the fact that you have a challenge as a seller. We know what those pain points are. And if you call us, and Natasha's a great example of this, we're going to listen. We're going to have a solution for you. We're going to take great care of you. And we're going to do that with convenience, with the close, as is, cash offer, all that type of stuff as well. So I love it.
I have to say one more thing, actually.
Yes.
So even though we're a small market, Lexington, I believe, is like number 62 for marketing in the country. And Dallas is like way up there. There is another REI radio student in my market, and he's on 3 stations. And I've still been able to do this many deals. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Good job. Good job. Yeah. And if you're listening, the way that we have built up radio, right, is small markets 1, mid markets 2, and large markets 3. So it's great because radio can be really big. Like in Dallas, you could put a ton of people in that market. We never bump into each other.
Yeah.
But great job on the fact that you have another REI student. Both of you guys are in your market. You're on different stations, and you guys are still creating great lead flow and opportunity for yourself as well. So I love that. So let me ask you this. You're now looking at radio, you're spending $700. The first thing I thought was like, you need to go out and buy another station.
Yeah.
Those type of returns. But how is this changing kind of the future as you're looking about your marketing? Do you want to go do more radio? Do you want to continue to cold call? Do you want to add something on? How has this kind of shifted your really vision about your future when it comes to your marketing strategies?
Yeah, I definitely want to add on more radio, but I'm holding out for one of the best channels in the area that my friend has still not gotten onto either. So it's a race. It's a race, and I'm going to win.
Just so you can get there first. So you want to come in and tack on another big station.
Yeah.
And that's what you guys know. There's all shapes and sizes of stations and so forth. And so radio is just super cool because there's a lot of variables to play with and genres of music and talk versus music stations, all that type of stuff, which is really super cool. So if you're listening again, our responsibility as a community, particularly me as a coach, is to bring you the very best I have. This year I did. Radio is one of my biggest secret sauces. And again, I knew it was a perfect time to start talking about it because virtually no competition, extremely affordable, set and forget. And I was like, man, I know people like Natasha, if they're given this tool, are going to rock and roll with it. And so that's what we've done. And I'm super excited just to see how this tool is just changing the game for certain people. So if you've been listening in, I just want to continue to let you hear students. And again, I'll tell you it's great, but Natasha will tell you it's great as well. So here's the thing. Oh yeah, go ahead. Natasha's going to like type in. What do you want to say?
I have to give you a little plug real quick. So there is a local there, of course, it's a small market. So everybody's been hearing Natasha's on radio. Like I go to church and people are like, I heard your ad the other day. And other real estate investors are like, you're on the radio? How did you do that? And so, of course, I tell them about your program, and they're always trying to think of ways they could do it on their own, right? And circumvent. So I talked to this older real estate investor. He's like, we were on radio and it didn't do anything. Like it was no good. And I'm like, yeah, they got the secret sauce. I mean, you got to do it the right way. So there's lots of people like trying to shortcut it, but when you follow exactly what you guys said to do, and all your special trade secrets, it works and it is successful and you do make a profit. And that's the important part. Like these other guys, maybe they know somebody who knows somebody in radio, but when you're not following the formula, you might not be profitable, even if you're on the radio.
Yeah, I love that you said that. And again, that kind of brings joy because what I gave you, Natasha, was my 10 years of experience, right? So rather than you trialing and erroring and losing money, et cetera, just came in and said, here's exactly the way you set up all these variables. You want to know what's funny though? I get interviewed on podcasts, quite a bit, and I'll have the occasional person go, yeah, I tried radio, it didn't really work for us. And so the people that even try to go after it, they don't even know how to do it properly. And so they walk away and go, it wasn't profitable because you have a marketing channel. But then there's a very specific way to work that channel. It's why TTP with Brent Daniels works. You can cold call, but Brent is going to show you the most sophisticated, as the well-timed, simplistic, efficient way to do that. We're just doing the same thing on radio. So you can try it yourself, but I've had, Natasha, the same thing. People like crash and burn and it not work for them. Because, again, I'm giving you 10 years of experience doing that. So book a call, see if your market's open. I know we've sold out a lot of markets at this point. As we said earlier, sometimes it's only one person to market, 2 if it's bigger, 3 if it's really large. We have some people, Natasha, I don't know if you know, come in and just buy out the whole market themselves. So if you listen, you have the opportunity to draw a moat around yourself if you want to pay for it. So it's totally up to you. But go to wholesalinginc.com/REI radio. Again, wholesalinginc.com/REI radio. Book a call and jump on some markets, obviously, before we end up filling up. And then at that point, Natasha, I'll be bringing in my second value piece to the community as well. So again, I've kept quiet for like 15 years, Natasha. I haven't talked about everything that we do in our business. So it's exciting for me to kind of come out and show people what we've worked on that's going to be valuable for them.
Keep fighting more because I've already sent a bunch of people your way. So
thank you, Natasha. I love it.
Yeah.
So wrapping up, one last question for you, Natasha. There's some people listening and they're like, man, this radio thing's not going away. Chris came out, was talking about it, and I was like, yeah, it's going to come and go. And now I just hear student after student. If someone is still on the fence at this point, and again, it's a good fence. It's like, man, I've really been processing this thing. Should I consider implementing this in my business because I want to be making wise decisions? I got a family, maybe I have a job, I'm working. What would you tell that person about radio at this point?
I mean, I can't tell you what to do with your money, but I will definitely say it was a very good investment for me. As long as you have 1 to 3 months of savings saved up for your bill, you should jump in and do it. I think it took me 1 month to get my first deal, but I've heard some other students say it takes 3 months. Yeah. So as long as you have that cushion, you should be able to breathe.
I agree. And in your case, that would have just been what, $2,100?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people have that in their back pocket.
Yeah.
So perfect. Well, thank you guys tuning in. We always appreciate you showing up. Natasha, I'm so proud of you. I love your style, your personality. I know that you're in the game for the right reason. And I love that you took this tool and you were rocking and rolling with it. So you have been just a phenomenal student. So I just want to give you some praise and some shout out. And to the rest of you, thanks so much for joining in. And until next time, we will catch you soon to add more value. Talk to you later.